Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Hot Mic with Lady She podcast. I'm your host, Lady She. Tonight, I am excited. I just want to thank everyone in advance who has supported this platform thus far. April is now officially the month for the Men Where Art Thou series on Hot Mic with Lady She. And tonight, we will not be shortchanging you on tonight. I trust and believe that when I say that, you will be blessed after tonight. So this one is personal to me and my family. Chris Edmond, I shared on social media that I wrote a book about my oldest son, Roger, who was autistic. And I actually mentioned him in the book because of the way he carried himself as a coach and just by the energy he gave and he sent, towards my son. People don't have to be nice. So when people do right by you, when people, when you remember how a person made you feel, give them their flowers while they're still here. So tonight, that is what I am doing for not just my son's first basketball coach, but he is also one of the retired supervisors. He was one of my first supervisors. Now I'm thinking, yeah, I'm gonna make y'all laugh about something that he did to me too. He might remember, but I remember. But this is what you're supposed to do. Especially when you progress in life, you always remember those who made you feel a certain way. So on tonight, on How Michael Lady She podcast presents Men Where Art Thou. Men Where Art Thou series, we have none other than Mr. Christopher Edmond of Freeport, New York with us.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming. I am super humble. I'm super excited. You've done so much. I'm trying to mentally tell myself how to condense everything. But the God we serve, we don't condense anything. We just gonna let him have his way on tonight. So that's what I want to do. So once again, just thank you so much for accepting my invitation, to come on this platform and just bless God's people. So where do I start? Let's do this. So for those who do not know, when I invite somebody on to the platform, I ask them to fill out a questionnaire. And with that, most of them just put, I'm an open book. And then I'm like, until I say something to you like this, oh snap. So, but Chris, thank God, he did fill it out. But the first question I have is connected to his childhood. And I would love for you to elaborate. The first sentence that Chris put was that he wasn't raised by his dad. And so on this month, and this time, one of the reasons why I decided to do this series was because I wanted our men to speak to the hearts of the men. Because I want to understand what our men are going through. I want to understand, I want to give the men a voice, this month, just to help us to understand what is happening and why, if you can explain it. So please tap into why the first thing you said was, I didn't grow with a father.
Well, anybody that knows me knows that I have father issues. Mm-hmm. Right from the start, I have father issues. Simply because I never had a father. Mm-hmm. Up until the age of 12, 2 weeks before my 12th birthday, I was raised by my grandparents in West Helena, Arkansas. Now, West Helena is about 10 minutes from the Mississippi River, and I always knew that my father stayed in Helena, which was about 15 minutes away, but we had no interaction whatsoever. And even as a small child, I had a resentment that my father wouldn't want anything to do with me, and he wouldn't take any type of responsibility. Like I said, when I was filling it out, I said if it was left up to him, I would have died shortly after birth.
Wow. But why? Why do you say that, though? I'm sorry to cut you off. I want to know when you said I have an issue with fathers. First, explain what that is.
That was something at a very early age that I took up on myself, and I always told myself that I was going to be a very good father. That just did not sit well with me, no matter what the reason is. And there can always be a reason. There can be 1,000 reasons. But the fact remains, he was absent.
Right.
And like I said, anybody that knows me knows where I'm coming from.
Right.
Get that out of the way right away.
Right.
And then we can move on from what I didn't have to what I did have.
Okay. Well, let's do that.
And what I did have was terrific grandparents. I mean, parenting is a little bit different now. I can even attest to that, because my grandparents, they would, outside of the fact that they could whoop you.
Say that one.
And my grandmother was like one of the world's greatest whoopers. I mean,
she had her own switch with a name on it. What's the world's greatest whooper?
They say spare the rod, spoil the child.
Yeah.
But none of us was ever spared.
Right.
And I can say I'm not thankful for the whooping or when I had to walk up the hill to get a switch.
Oh, yeah.
Matter of fact, we had to get 3 switches so she could braid them together.
Wait. Oh, that's why she's the greatest. She was the braider.
But she was, but the style of parenting, there was always a lesson in it.
Right.
There was always a lesson in it.
Right.
And when you got that beaten, you knew exactly why you got that beaten.
Right.
They wasn't just beaten for the sake of having fun and child abuse and all of that.
Right.
You knew exactly what line you had crossed over, and you knew
it was coming.
Why it was coming.
Right.
All right. But the lessons that they taught you, that the lessons that they taught you and the work that they had you doing. I mean, I was in 3rd grade. I could cook any meal of the day on a broken down stove.
Oh.
My grandmother taught us all to cook. And the way she did it was she'd sit on the side of the bed, and my grandmother was about 5'4" by 5'4". And she'd sit on the side of the bed, and she would have us bring her a certain pan. And then we had to bring the ingredients and everything. And by the time the meal was done and we were to put it in the stove, we had made 100 trips back and forth from the kitchen to the bedroom.
Because she had to be...
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, cut out the middleman. We all learned how to cook that way.
Right.
And I tell you, to this day, my grandmother is the best cook that I've ever known. She could make something out of nothing. And she always had a freezer full of preserves. And you learned how to do things. It was a act of survival.
Right.
I can remember we raised hogs, and one day we killed a hog, and that was the longest day. Well, you separated them, and my grandfather...
How did you separate them?
You separate the hog, slap and hit, and boom, boom, boom.
Oh, gotcha.
Because they like to...
Congregate, right.
Congregate together. And my grandfather separated the biggest one, laid the opening of the shotgun right between his eyes, pulled the trigger. This hog stumbled back, didn't go down.
Oh!
And
what?
My grandmother...
He said, what's up?
My grandmother, which had no formal education whatsoever.
Wow.
If you ever saw her write her name, she would fool you, because she would write it so pretty, and what a pretty handwriting. But that was the only thing that she could write.
Woo!
We missed.
What happened to that?
They missed slavery, but not by much.
Right.
Only by a couple of breaths.
Yeah.
And once the hog stumbled back, and he was going to shoot it again, my grandmother said, "No, don't shoot it again. You'll mess up too much of the meat."
Oh.
So she said, "Get the sledgehammer."
Oh.
about 4 or 5 mighty twirls of the sledgehammer. He went down to his knee,
That joker was fighting.
took the knife, cut his throat, and the day was on.
Not the day was on.
My grandmother gave instructions on where to cut, how deep to cut.
And wait, how old are you now?
I can't be no more than 8.
And when you said they, who else? Who's they?
Up until age 12, my 4 siblings and I stayed with my grandparents.
Okay, so the 5 of you.
Yes.
5 kids. Okay.
And, just everything about it was work.
Right.
The little kids had to stomp around in a tub of water and vinegar to clean the chitlins.
Oh, I smell
All
that,
right.
y'all. Y'all smell that? Woo! Chitlins different.
Chitlins, I can't complain as long as I understand where they come from and how they've been prepared.
Clean. Yeah. Tell them that,
I could go
Chris.
for some chitlins.
That's a fact. No, it takes some days if you're doing it right.
Oh, yes.
It takes some hours and days if you're doing it right.
That play pretty soon became work.
Right.
But there wasn't a part of the hog that was thrown away that wasn't used. We used ears, the feet, you name it, even the skin.
Right.
You clean the skin and fry it up for a tasty treat.
Right.
And they even sell it in stores now.
Yes, they do. They sure do. What?
But just fill in the freezer because you know that there's going to come a time when you're going to need to get in the freezer. Throughout the year. But like I said, they taught lessons.
Yeah.
I can remember one day just finishing washing the dishes, and I'm no more than 7 or 8. My grandmother, wants me to go to the store. So she digs in her spot to get the money. And she gives me enough money to get 2 loaves of bread. My grandfather always ate a half a loaf of Wonder Bread. With anything he ate.
Right. A half a loaf? Like each meal?
Half a loaf, each meal. And he was coming home for lunch in a couple of hours. She wanted me to go to the store to get
bread.
The bread. On the way to the bread, I was confronted by 3 guys that was a little older than me. And they ended up taking the money.
Black guys?
Yes, this was West Elm, Arkansas. They ended up taking the money. Couldn't get it back, so I got the idea, hey, I know what to do. Oh. I'll go home and tell my grandmother.
Oh, no.
So when I told my grandmother what had happened, she told me to go to the wood pile and bring me back 3 sticks of wood.
Okay.
And okay, she told me to get the wood, I'll go get the wood, but she's not responding to what I just told her.
Right.
I brung the wood back, and she picked out the longest piece, and she went to her spot again and got money and said, bring back 2 loaves of bread, and gave me the money and the stick of wood. And I'm like, but the boys are still out there. And she instructed me not to come home without the bread.
Yeah.
Says, the second they get in range, you start hitting and don't stop. And sure enough, same spot, 3 guys confronted me again, and this time when they got in range, I started hitting.
Yep.
And I got the best of all 3 of them with that stick of wood. Went, got the bread, and I was sure on the way back that there would be a confrontation, but nope, didn't see him.
Didn't see him?
Brought the bread back, and my grandmother's explaining to me how you don't let anybody take anything from you. Right. And I'm just in awe that my grandmother had instructed me to fight. This is the first fight I ever had.
Right.
But I couldn't come home. And as a child, I'm thinking, where in the world can I go if I can't come home?
Right.
That's where everybody that loves you is at home.
Yes.
Exactly. But that situation taught me a lesson. And in different situations like that, I've tried to not only scold my own kids, I tried to present a lesson
Right.
that they can take with them forever.
Forever.
I'll be 60
Love
in
that.
June,
Love
and
that.
I still got lessons. I mean, more lessons than I care to admit from growing up.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm.
That was, phew. No, I get it. My mama grew up in Alabama, so I knew it was coming. When you start that story, I knew it was coming. I said, "Oh, Granny about to teach him something for real. You're gonna forget." But I love that you said they gave lessons, and when you said parenting is so different now, I definitely want you to tap into that. But my question also is, you said you were with your grandparents until 12. So now, where was mom that you need to be with your grandparents? And whose parents were they? They were your mother's parents, clearly, right?
It was my mother's parents.
Okay.
My mother, she was considered a wild child. Didn't complete her education because back then it was more important to go to work and pick cotton. And as far as picking cotton is concerned, my mother at a teenage age was considered a superstar.
Wow.
Here you have this female that's picking just as much cotton as a grown man. And my grandfather always gave her a little extra because she picked so much cotton. And to this, my mother has passed now, but she took it to the grave with her that she was so proud that she was able to outpick everybody in the family. There was 16 of them, 14, 2 passed away in accidents, but the 14 of them, they worked. I mean, up before day in the cotton fields, and I just missed it. I just missed getting on that truck before the sun come up. And
I need people to understand that's something right there. My mother had arthritis because of picking cotton.
Oh yeah.
And it we think it's so far removed, but it's really not. It's not that long ago.
It is not that long ago.
It's really truly not. It's not that long ago.
But for some reason, my mother decided that she had to make a move.
Right.
And she left West Helena, which is in Phillips County, and ended up in New York.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Ended up in New York. And we knew that she was in New York working, saving, and the plan was always for her to come get us.
Okay.
And I can remember telling other kids in the neighborhood, when things are not going right, and you tell other kids, my mother's coming to get me, and we're going to New York and all of this, and they're listening like, yeah. But I tell you, when that day came, it was the look on their face, like they're actually
really
going.
Yeah. Wow.
And she really, she came back for us.
Yeah. So this was a mother of 4.
5.
5, excuse me. Mother of 5 who said, I know there's more. I gotta do what I gotta do. Tell my parents, hold me down until I got it right to come get my children. Knowing that she still wasn't gonna get help from dad.
Oh no, there was definitely no help in sight. No help in sight. She came, got us, 2-day ride on the Greyhound, and that's the first time I knew that I had motion sickness. I was sick the whole way.
Wow.
But we made it to Port Authority, and as we're leaving Port Authority, we're stepping over people on the ground that are sleeping on the ground. And I'll never forget this.
As in, like, they're homeless or they missed
They are homeless. Whatever the reason, they're sleeping on the ground. And the one thing they had in common was they were all hugging a body.
Wow.
Now, as an adult, I know that maybe I can have a drink and not end up sleeping on the street but why take a chance? I've never had a
Right.
drink in my life.
Wow.
I've never had a smoke of anything
Wow.
in my life.
That's neat.
And like I said, I know that I probably could have a drink and not end up like that, but why? I'm
Like,
doing okay.
I don't get the fixation. Chris said, I don't get the fixation.
I'm doing okay.
Listen, I'm with you on that one.
But we were, and my mother,
Woo!
she, right away, she laid the ground rules and she says, I know what y'all have been through. I know how hard y'all have worked. So if you make your bed and keep your room clean, that's all the chores I'll ask of you. So we went from working like grown people
True.
to having time to be
So that was
a
like,
kid.
oh my goodness,
Woo.
I felt that thing.
Mhm.
I felt that.
Yeah.
Wow. It was like you went from real labor
Real labor.
to being with, first of all, the woman you've been yearning to be with.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Because that's what I'm thinking. You know, as a child, you know, when you're seeing, or you can tell me how you felt rather, seeing other kids with both of their parents,
Mhm.
you know, usually, or at least one with their mom, and you don't have that.
Yeah.
So all you have is the dream of my mother's coming.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm telling these kids. So what was that like?
That, like I said before, that the look on their faces was enough for me.
Yeah.
The fact that my mom actually came back.
Ooh, I felt that. I felt that. So now you're in New York City,
Mhm.
and your first encounter is not. It's not that great.
No.
No, that wasn't that good at all. So you see homeless people, drunkards rather,
And you didn't see that in the country.
right.
I mean, there's right away. There's more cars and there's more people than you've seen in your lifetime
So it had to be a
in the
little
first
overwhelming.
15 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like a switch hit, a whole nother world.
Yeah.
Phew.
And throughout, the travels and going out on the sidewalk, and you're thinking, this is where my mother.
Right.
has
This was you
been.
chose to go.
But it was a little slower in Freeport because we moved.
Oh, you came right to Long Island.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. She had everything set up.
Wow.
She had everything set
And
up.
when you say that, what did she do? What was she doing? What was her plan?
Well, she, up until the point where we came, she was a live-in maid.
Okay.
Cleaned houses.
Right.
And, I was always raised, honest days pay for honest days
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
And it really didn't matter what you did, but how you did it.
Right.
And seeing that now she had a place of her own with her kids, we might need to get in touch with her throughout the day.
Right.
She had a book, and the book looked like maybe a doctor's appointments book.
Okay.
On such and such a day, at such and such an hour, she is at this address.
Oh,
and
wow.
at this number,
Mm-hmm.
if you need to contact her, that's how you
That's how
contact
you-
her.
Wow.
And it changed from day to day. I mean, it was, for someone that didn't have an education,
Yeah.
she really put it together. She really, really put it together. Me and my brothers gravitated toward athletics when it came to school.
Right.
My oldest brother, well, all three of us really excelled in sports.
Okay.
You name it. Football, basketball, track, whatever it was. I didn't get to wrestle until later on. When I didn't get to wrestle until I was in 10th grade.
Okay.
And that's probably starting a little late behind the curve because a lot of people start when they're in 3rd grade.
Right.
You know,
Real small. Mm-hmm.
And The wrestling coach said that because I played so many sports, it would be helpful as far as getting into the wrestling.
Okay.
And I really didn't think too much about the wrestling, but actually I started on a dare.
Oh.
A couple of friends dared me that I couldn't last an entire wrestling.
That's all you needed, huh?
So I went out and I took the dare.
That's all you needed.
Yeah, I took the dare and I made it through the practice. And but I kept going back because I wanted to go back until I could beat the two guys that dared me.
Oh,
now
gotcha.
They were a 112 pounder and a 126 pounder, and they took it to me.
And how much did you weigh?
Well, I was about 140, but they knew moves.
They
had
techniques.
They
were in it already.
Yeah, they were varsity wrestlers and they were into it.
Right.
So by the time I got to the point where I could hang with them or at least give them a battle, I was hooked.
Love that.
I was
Wait, let me pull you back a little bit. So you said, now, okay, there was 5 of you. 3 brothers and 2 sisters?
Yep.
Okay, all right. So you said the boys gravitated to the sports. What did the girls do?
They really didn't gravitate to sports too much.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, my youngest sister just cooked, she just cooked dinner on Easter and had us over.
Really?
And, when we started to eat, I'm like, wait a minute. Don't tell me you cook this stuff in the cornbread.
Ooh!
Because my grandmother always had to make the cornbread and then make the stuffing.
Stuffing, yeah.
I took some of that home with me.
All right, now I love that. That's awesome. So now I'm thinking, your mother didn't have much education. She made a way for you guys to make sure you guys were solidified, cleaning homes or whatever. So was that something that she put in you to say, I'm not educated, you have to be educated? Or was that something innate where you're like, I'm supposed to be educated? Where'd that come from?
The way she put it was, I have to get up and go to my job. Your job is to go to school and get good grades. And for the most part, we wasn't bad kids. You didn't get trouble out of us. But when it came to the grades, the wrestling coach, right away, he's telling me that I could be good enough to get a college scholarship.
Love that.
So now here's somebody, this is the first person that ever told me that I could go to college.
Wow. In the 10th grade?
Oh, yeah.
Wait a minute.
My guidance counselor had me pegged to be a farmer.
Ooh. Okay.
And he explained that it would be a lot of work and I had to learn technique and moves and all of this. And sure enough,
the guidance counselor told you would be a farmer.
That I would be a farmer.
Where did that come from? I would love to have a conversation with him where did that come from, sir? Wow, that is different. But I'm saying, so out of all the sports, your wrestling coach, which you wasn't really interested in, is the one that mentioned college.
Yeah.
Scholarship. That is different. That's interesting.
Now, when he mentioned college and also mentioned how I would pay for it.
Right.
Because I knew that if I had to pay for books, I wouldn't be able to go.
You wouldn't be able to go. Right.
Now, my mother was working countless hours, day in, day out, to put food on the table.
Right.
There's no way that she's going to be able to even start to try to pay for college.
Yeah. So now, mom never dated? There was no stepdad?
No stepdad.
Wow.
No.
So, you're a young man in high school.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have a stepfather, like as in there's no male model technically in the home. Where did you get? Who were the role models? Who were the role models?
My wrestling coach, my football coach, my coaches.
Yeah.
My coaches were the role model.
Okay.
And I hear from time to time, females will say, I'm the mama and the daddy.
No.
You might be the mama and you might be a super mama, but you cannot be the daddy.
And
you
vice
have
versa.
to have a male teach a male on what it's like to be a grown man.
Yeah.
To enter into fatherhood and manhood.
Yeah.
And just my coaches did a terrific job. I mean, and they had families of their own.
Right.
My wrestling coach, I could get up, get on the train, go out to his house. I'm welcome there. I'm welcome there. And usually with coaches and athletes, there's a give and take. The athlete does what he does, and the coaches help him prepare.
Right.
But my coaches went overboard.
So you think they went overboard because they understood the deficit, they understood there was that empty space?
Yeah, no doubt.
Did your mom raise you in church? Were your grandparents churchy?
Well, that's another thing. My grandparents, my grandfather, who we all called Daddy, even though he was our grandfather, he was the only daddy we knew.
Right.
My grandmother made sure we were in church at least 3 times a week. You know, sunshine band rehearsal, Sunday. I mean, and I'm talking about at an early age,
Right.
we, people would pick us up from the house.
Right.
3, maybe 2 or 3 different cars. Some people get in this car, some people got in that car. And we went to church, and we went to the same type of church I go to now, Church of God in Christ.
Right.
And when the music got loud, the preacher was preaching, and people got to dancing. When it was time to go to sleep, as little kids, we went to sleep right on the bleachers.
Right.
And so many times I have woken up, couldn't see my hands in front of my face, it was so dark.
Wow.
And realized that they had left me.
Oh!
They had left me in church.
I was gonna say that.
But
they forgot the little one.
But
what?
When they get home and my dad took a head count, Chris is missing. Go back to the church and get him. And it got to the point where I would wake up, see darkness, and realize what had happened.
Right.
And lay back
Just
down.
They coming for me.
After all, I'm in the safest place on earth. I'm in God's house.
Getting good rest.
I tell you.
That stop laughing. Go ahead. He said, listen, I'm tired. Yeah. He said, I work hard. Okay? Don't think because I'm a kid I don't work. I got a real job. Okay? Yeah. You know what my grandparents are? Wow. Yeah. That is something. So growing up in the church, let me ask you this. We're going to get off this though. What was it? Because I want to understand. In my head, I'm thinking your grandfather had to be really mad about your dad. Basically being 2 feet away.
My grandfather was simply a rock. He was always there. He and I thank him for being an example.
Yes.
14 kids, then raised grandkids.
Right.
Up before the sun every day.
Yeah.
And he took care of the graveyards.
Wow.
Plural. He was so good at what he did. He took care of the black folks graveyard and the white folks graveyard.
Wow.
Now you know you got to be good.
Yeah, you a different
if you're
breed.
taking care of white folks.
Yeah.
I mean,
that time, yeah.
And again, he was uneducated. And my uncles tell a story about how he can fix anything with a popsicle stick.
Oh.
The mowers, the ride mowers. It's like, man. And he always prided himself in having common sense.
Right.
Said, well, if you look at it long enough, you should be able to figure out how it works.
No excuses.
You know, he was just didn't say much. Didn't do too much of the whooping. But he was a steady rock. Steady.
I felt that. Shout out to Grandpa. Dad, I miss you, and I don't even know. I felt that. I feel his spirit. I promise that. All right, so now I'm still stuck on the wrestling coach is the one that told you about scholarships. All these sports you're playing, you and your siblings, and that was the one through a dare. You know what I'm saying? That told you about the scholarships.
And
go ahead.
And he, in the summertime, every weekend we would be going to a wrestling joint. You know, we had to get out to, hey, if you want to beat the best, you gotta get out there and compete with the best. And every weekend we're going to Suffolk County, we're going to upstate, camping out. That's the way we got around it, because it would have cost too much to stay in hotels.
Gotcha.
So we camped out and went to the wrestling tournaments.
That was somebody that was very invested and saw something in you all.
Yeah.
For sure. To do that.
And I tell you, there's a couple of hundred kids from Freeport that owes Terry Hayes a debt of gratitude.
Terry Hayes.
He's retired. He was the athletic director at Freeport High when he retired. And he's doing well now. But his boys went to Syracuse, Tennessee, Old Dominion,
OD,
Rutgers, you name it. He's the reason why we ended up in those places.
Yeah. Gotta give people their flowers while they can smell them. We have to do our due diligence. Shout out to him, man. Changing lives.
We, as a matter of fact, I received a full scholarship from University of Tennessee to wrestle.
Right.
And September 2nd, cars all loaded up. And it's about 6:30 in the evening. And we start to ease away. And my mother had asked a friend of hers named Eddie to help her drive. Right? And as soon as we get to the end of the block, we're still on Lillian. I mean, this is the street that runs right into my house.
Right.
Little boy pulls out in front of the car. And Eddie pulls the car over to the left. We end up on the sidewalk. I don't know how we missed him.
Woo! God!
As a matter of fact, I don't know how he didn't hit us the way he just jetted out into the street. But we avoided that and carried on until about 6:15 in the morning. We're in Tennessee. We're about 40 minutes away from campus.
Right.
And I'm awakened by my mother's screams. And I sit straight up. And Everything is sped up.
Okay.
It looks like solid green outside of the car. And I'm looking at the railing. We're going head on with the railing. We avoided the railing, but went straight into the side of the hill. The car rolled over 3 times. All the windows are out,
Ow.
and I climb out the back. Pretty soon, truckers stopped to help, and the front seat had moved forward, and my mother and Eddie was trapped. Truckers stopped, very well-meaning, but it turned into an argument where I'm holding off these truckers because they're saying, we can get them out, we can get them out.
Oh, and you're like, mm-mm.
And I'm like, no.
Yeah, don't touch them.
I've been in the Boy Scouts, I know. Yeah. You don't move them.
Shout out to the Boy Scouts.
Until professionals
Yes, sir.
get on the scene. If the scene is safe, wait for professionals.
Let them be, yes.
And sure enough, when the professionals got there, they had to use this machine, the jaws of life, to cut them out. I mean, literally cut them out of the car. Wow. And Eddie was in the hospital for 4 days. My mother came home on Christmas Eve. And still, Christmas Eve, she had to be in traction for another 5 to 6 months.
Wow.
But she recovered. She recovered. I don't think she ever really was as strong as she was. Because
Body was different.
My mom was a strong lady.
Yeah.
I mean, there was nothing soft.
Yeah.
Like if she gave you a kiss, anytime she gave me a kiss, I'm going on a trip, going away, and she get ready to give me a kiss, I know to pucker up. I gotta pucker up to get some meat between my teeth and hers because she's gonna bang into me.
Chris!
Like, man.
Like, no, it was serious.
Yes.
Wow.
Oh,
man.
But
she had to be, though.
I called when we in the hospital and everything, I called the coach. The coach came and got me. And I mean, I'm crying like you can't believe it. Or the whole way to campus. But the coach, I don't know why, but he wouldn't look at me. And that right there bonded us together. Yeah. Now, my high school coach was always bragging about the college coach.
Okay.
About how good he is and what a legend he was. And I mean, he carried on so much that we used to tease him about this Superman.
Right.
And now all of a sudden, this guy's my coach.
Right.
This guy won seven national championships.
Wow.
Nobody's ever did that before. Gray Simons, they just did a story on the top 25 moments in NCAA wrestling history. And he was chosen as the #1 spot.
Wow, I love that. That's amazing.
You know,
that's amazing.
Wow. When it comes to wrestling, he knows his stuff. Technique, feel for things. Wow. And
that was your coach.
He got me hooked.
Right.
On how did one person know all of this? How do he know what's coming?
Right.
How do he know what the guy's going to try to do? It got me hooked.
Yeah.
And even so much, when stuff gets you hooked, you want to find out about it. Start doing a little research. And I come to find out that thousands of years ago, that wrestling was alive and well in Africa. And years before the first slave ship ever showed up, the Africans were wrestling to solve disputes.
Wow.
And it was passed down from one great wrestler to the next great wrestler. And that's how it's passed down today.
Wow.
You have to put your hands on somebody so they can get a feel, they can get insight. I tell you,
wow.
It just shook me to the point where my roommate in college was also black, which the whole time that I'm going down, I think I'm going to be rooming with a white guy.
Right.
You know, black people in Tennessee, you know. But he recruited a very good team. Wasn't state champs, but they were guys with talent that he could show, that he could teach.
Yeah.
And my senior year, we ended up being 8th in the country. In the same ballpark as Iowa State, Oklahoma State, which are the big schools when it comes to wrestling.
Right.
We could go anywhere, not fear anybody.
Right.
Know that we could win on any given day. It just, it shakes you.
Life changing.
You know, when you don't have to take a back seat to anybody.
Right.
You know, and with wrestling, a lot of people just, oh, he's a wrestler, and they look at it as if, oh, you got to be really strong. You know, wrestling, which is another name is it's called grappling.
Right.
Where you're trying to figure out something and you're tussling with something, right? The wrestling, like I said, thousands of years ago, in tombs, kings' tombs, they have just about every wrestling hold known to man carved on the walls of the tombs.
Yeah. Oh, I love this.
And no matter how you turn the map, you can turn it upside down. Egypt is still on the continent of Africa.
Say that one.
You know, so to think that my ancestors
the
have
history.
been doing this and the history of it.
Love it.
Whew. But
his ancestors created a Hall of Famer. Come on in here.
But
love it.
To get two birds with one stone, in '85, I graduated and in the field of social work.
I was going to ask you.
And I won a national championship.
Awesome.
I ended up when I came back to Freeport, I ended up working as a social worker.
Awesome.
And I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I mean, working with teenagers and everybody declared that every teenage black male needed a black social worker, male social worker.
Male social worker, yeah.
You know?
Still.
High demand.
Still.
But I worked there a year and I ended up leaving because the pay.
Right.
It just didn't pay enough.
Yeah.
I mean, I was staying at home with my mom, but it just didn't pay enough.
Now, did it just not pay you enough?
The field don't.
The field in itself.
Just don't give out enough.
Right.
And
one of the most important fields doesn't give out enough. Education, one of the most important fields, doesn't give out enough.
So I left
being
a social worker to become a correction officer.
Okay.
Now,
who told you to do that? How did you get there? How did you wake up one day and say, "I'm going to take this test"? I need to know. Where did this come from?
Actually, Arlene Mayers, who has retired,
Right. Shout out to Arlene.
brung by some
She's from
applications. Yeah, she's from Freeport.
I honestly never knew where she was from.
She's a year behind me.
Okay.
She brung by the applications, and I filled one out.
So she just came to the house like, listen, fill this out. It's a county job.
Yeah.
Literally.
And put it in and took the test. And
but what was happening? Were you like complaining, like I'm not making enough money? Was it because she was already a correction officer? Like, well, how did this happen? Because I'm being real. Most people don't wake up saying I want to be a CO.
She was already a correction
she was already
officer, maybe on the job for maybe a year.
Okay.
No more than 2.
Okay.
But you see the money that people are making.
Mm-hmm.
It says, I can do that.
Right.
I can do that.
He can absolutely do that.
And as a matter of fact, I see people today, and they remember me, and they was like, "Man, you're the only person that I know that really enjoyed going to work." and I worked in a gym.
Right.
And I've always prided myself in being able to talk to people on a bus.
Right.
Talk to people as I'm going to the White House.
Yeah.
Talk to people as I'm going through Chinatown.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never been afraid of people.
Right.
I mean, I've always seen maybe not the lighter side, but I haven't seen the darker side in people. And I tell people all the time, working in a correction center is like riding a bus. Every now and then, you're going to get a nut.
Right.
But for the most part, everybody's just trying to get to where they're going.
See, that was good. I like that. Listen, no, I get it. Mm-hmm. That makes so much sense. Wow, I love that. So now, do you think that the social work aspect is what kind of also made you love the job?
Well, I knew in high school, going into college, I knew I wanted to be a social worker. Right. And we had a academic counselor, Alan Bill.
Now, I love to remember names.
Yeah, Alan he was a monster. He never wrote anything down. Everything. He had a photographic memory, and he would touch the side of his head and recall what it is he was supposed to tell you.
See, I'm weird. Some of that impresses me, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Forget you.
Chris.
Yeah.
Your math tutor is going to be there 7:30 in the lounge.
And you like this. Okay.
Everybody was amazing. He handled the entire athletics.
And we both
if you were an athlete and you needed a tutor, he got you a tutor. If he couldn't find a tutor for you, he would tutor you himself.
Oh, I love that. Some people who care. Bring these people. Come on.
He had a degree in just about everything.
Right.
I mean, he couldn't find
just brilliant.
He couldn't find a tutor, and this was my senior year, Peoples and Cultures of Africa. He couldn't find a tutor for that.
Right.
So he says, I got to do it myself.
Oh.
And he did. He knew everything.
Oh, wow.
He knew
everything. I love it to like, I love smart
people. And he suggested that I go to social work.
Love that.
And he says this degree will allow you to be able to tap into a lot of different fields.
Let me ask you this. Because as I'm listening to you, I just hear God. Like I just see and I just hear God. Were you aware, as you're growing up, or maybe more now, as you're going through your journey, understanding that God placed those friends in your life to dare you to do the wrestling thing, which connected you to the wrestling coach, which connected you to the wrestling world that you fell in love with, which also connected you to other people, adults who were like, this, you need a tutor for this, but you should go into social work. And it all connected to you being in corrections. Don't you see that? Is that God or what?
at a very early age. Like I said, we used to go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
When it was time to go to sleep, we go to sleep. At a very early age, I realized that the base is God.
Yeah.
Everything comes off of the base.
Yeah.
Everything is related to God.
Yeah.
I mean, it's already planned.
Mm.
You might not know it,
Ours. Yeah.
but because you don't know it, don't make it not so.
Say that one. Come on.
I've just always, in interacting with people, and I'm not one to bum rush people with, oh, let's go to church, God this, God that. I have a very personal relationship. Yeah. And if you get to know me, you're going to get to know that. Mm-hmm. A lot of people think that I'm a deacon in a church.
Right.
Not a deacon in a church. Because I act like I have sense. Because I act like,
You carry yourself
a certain way.
Yeah.
They think you're a deacon.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm not a deacon. What made you think that?
I'm just coming with my family. What? You gotta be some God too. So wow. So a friend who understood that you got your degree, but you need to make more money, brings you a test, you fill it out, she sends it in, you get the job, you enjoy the job. How did you meet your wife and start your family?
Well, with the job, when I started the job, I worked with minors.
Okay.
Right? And I used to go to work and I used to tutor the minors on how to go home.
Tap into that. Okay. What does that look like?
I would conduct interviews where I asked them questions I think the judge might ask them. And they had to come up with answers.
Love that.
And I'm explaining to them.
Almost like a hearing, like a probation hearing type thing.
Or a prep for a job interview.
Or that. Love that. Okay, let's go.
Now, and it shocked me how when I first started doing it, how they would look forward to me coming in. Right. Oh, Mr. Edmonds here, da-da-da. Oh, we can have an interview today, da-da.
Love this.
And believe it or not, most of them was able to go to court, answer the questions, and go home. Right. Because the judge don't want to lock them up.
No, they don't.
And if he can see that there's a ray of hope,
yeah,
he's going to ride with that hope.
Right.
So I actually met my wife on the job.
On the job means at the job. Yeah, that's like chill.
Yeah. And didn't really hit it off right away, but we were civil.
She dubbed you?
No. She sort of followed me. She got at me.
Oh!
All right.
Okay now!
But, and now I'm talking 25 years later.
Right.
We just celebrated our 25th
Congratulations.
anniversary.
Love it.
Not all have been perfect, but all adds up to be 25.
Yeah, I know that's right. It ain't perfect, but it adds up to 25. Love that. Love that. Wow.
I actually, after I finished wrestling in college, and my real goal was to make the Olympic team.
Wow.
But I finished college in 85, and the Olympics didn't come around to 88.
Right.
So, like I said, since I was a little kid, I always knew I wanted a family. Yeah. So I got to get my career going. And so I chose go ahead. And I started in 88 at the jail. Met my wife. And a year and a half later, we had our first daughter, which she's scheduled to graduate next month.
That was so fast.
With a master's degree.
Go ahead.
From Georgetown. Now she just got back from being over in Armenia playing professional basketball. And I tell you,
it's God.
I was shook.
Woo!
When it comes to Brittany Griner. I was simply shook.
Right.
Because I'm thinking, my daughter's over there.
Yeah. Oh,
You know?
For those who do not know, just explain,
Well, Brittany Griner got caught with cannabis oils. And
she's a female basketball
she's
player.
a female basketball player, played with the Sparks and played with Phoenix.
Right.
A real superstar. She was at Baylor, and now she's being held over there.
Right.
It's got to be at least 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
You know, and
it's very scary.
I'm really praying that she can somehow come out of that. That things will work out for her.
Yeah, absolutely.
But at the time when my baby's over there, I'm shook.
Yeah.
And I was so happy when she made it home.
Right.
Then I have an older son who is named after me, Christopher Edmond. Junior, he was a fantastic football player. He ended up winning the Thorpe Award. The Thorpe Award is the best football player in Nassau County.
Wow.
He played at Hofstra, then he went and played at University of Rhode Island. And now he has given me 5 grandkids.
Wow.
My youngest son.
You grandpa now.
Oh yeah, 5 times. So my youngest son, Terrence, he has just graduated 2 years ago. And he possesses 3 Long Island championship rings, which he participated
just beasting y'all.
He is a very good athlete.
Yes.
Very good athlete. From just going to different things. And I can say, I think for me, I made the right choice as far as when to start a family.
Right. Now, how old were you when you started the job?
I was 27. Who knows? I was about.
He said, who knows?
27, 28 when I started.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now, you start the job. Now, you had your first son before you started the job?
Yes.
Okay. Well, clearly, you meant don't after. Okay. So now, what was that like? Were you married to the mom first?
Nope.
You were not married to the mom. So,
well,
how do I ask this?
That was, I think I know what you're going to ask.
Okay.
And having a child out of wedlock.
Okay.
For me, it stopped at having a child.
Right.
Whether it's in wedlock or out of wedlock, that's my child.
Right.
And it got to the point we were in and out of family court so many times.
Wow.
So many times.
No, my question is going to be connected to your age and, now understanding I definitely want a family. So I want to be married and have my kids. That's what my question that we get towards.
The first time that I had a kid wasn't ideal. It wasn't under ideal circumstances.
Okay.
But I made sure that the next time was going to be done the right way.
Right.
If you start out doing things right, you have a better chance of ending up with everything turning out all right. So,
my question was more connected to because, you didn't grow up with your dad, was it like a pressure thing? Were you like, okay, I gotta be connected to my child because I definitely ain't doing what my dad did to me.
Yeah,
regardless.
It wasn't pressure.
No pressure.
It wasn't pressure.
Okay.
It's just something that I had set in my mind that I was going to do.
Right.
For example, every time he started to shed teeth, cut teeth,
Mm-hmm.
his temperature would go sky high, 103, 104, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going into work. I have a conversation with his mother. That if his temperature goes up, we might have to take him to the hospital. Da, 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 da. I work a double. I stop by the house.
A double is when you have double shifts.
2 shifts.
2 shifts, so 16 hours.
I stop by after midnight to see him. And his temperature was high. I said, how high? And she says, it's kind of high. So then I go in and I look at him, and he's got on an outfit. Then he's got on I see he's got on 2 outfits, right?
Okay.
And there's onions on them.
Okay.
Why the onions? So she explained that the onions let you know if he has a temperature or not.
Right.
And I'm thinking to myself, why wouldn't you just take the temperature?
Right.
But you're cooking my baby.
Stop that.
He ended up,
Stop.
got all the stuff off of him, took him to
Got all the stuff off of him.
we took him to the hospital, and right away, we told him what the situation was.
Right.
Oh, right in.
Mm-hmm.
Don't even bother sitting down.
Right.
They take him right in.
They take him in, yeah.
104.
Yeah.
And that's one thing about the jail and having the county job, the benefits. And at the time, his mother was working for the post office.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are with more benefits
than
we can use.
Yeah.
And we're using onions.
Stop this! I am not laughing at him. I am not laughing with you.
And we're using onions.
Turn him to a little steaky steak.
But everything turned out all right.
Right.
And
clearly he's phenomenal.
He's big and strong, and he's taking care of his kids.
Taking care of his children.
He's got 4 with his wife and 1 down in North Carolina. And he's a
man. You raised a man.
He's not budging.
Right.
He's not budging.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Love that. Wow. So you and the onions back on it. You know what? I'm done with you with that story. That's that good story. So you find your wife. Well, she found her good thing. How about that? She found her good thing, in corrections. So now you start your family, do you think it was something that was natural for your kids to go into sports?
Oh yeah, because my kids grew up seeing me play football, play basketball, and all of that. And I think they jumped into the water early.
Right.
I mean, Terrence was running, falling down, getting up, continue running, and still winning.
Right.
He was too young to really be running.
Right.
But he wanted to run because his sister was running.
Yeah.
And at the time, his sister, she always had a pretty stride. But when she first started with the track, here she is running around the curve, and she's in the lead. Mm-hmm. But when she got where the crowd was, she stopped and skipped.
Oh, wow.
It took her a while to really realize
that's what was happening.
We're racing.
Right.
She didn't care about the other people. She just wanted to run.
Right.
Oh,
wow.
And there's a guy on the job, Campbell. Mm-hmm. Campbell's son ran with us. And he was pretty good. And I had put him...
Trey, right.
Yeah, I had put Trey in the 3rd position on the relay. Mm-hmm. Just had put him there maybe 5 minutes ago. Mm-hmm. And the gun goes off and the race starts, right? Our second runner got to where he was supposed to hand the baton off, and nobody was there. right?
Okay.
So he kept running, gave it to the fourth guy. They finished up the race and everything.
Mhm.
He's like, where was Trey? And Trey comes back, walking across the infield, eating a hot dog.
Wait, nuh-uh.
Yeah. He says, Trey, what happened to you? And he says, I got hungry.
So
You know,
he's a truth teller.
the kids were mad at him, but I couldn't do anything but laugh.
Right,
you know?
right. He's a truth teller.
Oh my goodness.
So now you're coaching the kids. How did you get involved with CYO? Or was it just you meeting Vicky through the job? How did you get connected to that?
Vicky through the job,
Okay.
and then we started. Our kids were running, and Kai Robinson, he was coaching at the time. He left. Then they needed a coach.
Okay.
So we stepped in.
Okay.
And since we're there anyway,
right.
you know, we're there every Saturday all day.
Emphasize all day. It's
And
all day, y'all.
the CYO, I mean, you might think it's all fun and games, but people are serious.
No, it's
I mean,
serious.
when we first started, the schools had adults holding spots on the track,
Mm-hmm.
so they could have the first and second lane.
Uh-huh. Seen that.
And our kids, now, some people might say it's a racial thing, but our kids didn't want to run a long distance.
Right.
We would run the sprints and the relays, which is also equivalent to sprints.
Right.
So they would have the relays early,
Mm-hmm.
then the middle section is nothing but long distance.
Mm-hmm.
And the end are sprints.
Mm-hmm.
So we would show up early, start to dominate the relays, and dominate the sprints at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what we trained for.
Right.
Our training regimen was simply for the sprints.
Right.
We would run a wheel. Anybody knows there's 4 points to it, and everybody just keep moving the baton around.
Mm-hmm.
Kept moving the baton around. And we had some dynamite kids.
Yeah.
Once they got into it, and we wasn't really trying to go all over the country. And we just wanted to give them a taste, get them hooked.
Right.
And for the ones that excel, there were some people that ran track for the social element.
Mm-hmm.
They could form friends.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Some people just for the exercise.
Right.
And then we had some thrillers.
Yeah.
That really
awesome
could run.
Right.
I mean,
and got scholarships.
Oh, yeah. We have had kids to get college scholarships
Absolutely.
and to go on.
Absolutely.
But it's all about the work that you put in.
Right.
Everything boils down to being organized.
Right.
And if you can train in the right way.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned a great deal that if I can train the right way,
mm-hmm.
I can beat anybody.
Say that one.
But you have to be prepared.
Right.
You have to be prepared.
Right. And so that's the energy that you bring, when you're training these kids.
I saw an episode a while back where you were talking about how the coach
mm-hmm.
in the baseball was a yeller.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, I know that yelling is a part of sports.
Right.
A lot of times it's necessary because there's a lot of people
mm-hmm.
over a large area.
Right.
And you have to turn the volume up to be heard.
Right.
But there's also an element where yelling can turn an athlete on.
Mm-hmm.
That intensity.
Mm-hmm.
When he hear you say something and the intensity in your voice.
Ignite.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That this is serious.
Yeah.
This is serious business. And you just say it's go time.
Yeah.
And that's what I would always yell to the kids.
Right.
When it's their turn.
Mm-hmm.
It's go time. It's time to go. It's time to go. It's time to go. And, I think we changed the way they CYO looked at their program, because before we really got going, it was a big deal.
Right.
But once we start capturing Long Island championships, like that's when Suffolk and Nassau come together, and our kids were really smoking them.
Right.
Now it's just for fun. Now it's just
well,
for fun.
It's the truth anyhow. So, in the beginning, I shared that, you coached my son, Roger, for the first time. What was that like, the dynamics? Was he the first kid that you coached that was autistic?
I believe so.
I think so.
But everybody learns at their own pace.
Right.
And everybody learns in their own time. Now, he was on the basketball team, and there was times when the ref came up after the game, says, "Oh, I'm sorry, coach, I didn't know." I said, "You didn't know what?"
Right.
He know what to do. If you call him for traveling, call him for walking or whatever, so be it.
Right.
But and even the other kids on the team, they adjust, and we drill the plays so much that everybody knew the plays.
Right.
Everybody know what to do.
Right.
Including Roger.
Right.
I'll tell you, there was one incident that I wasn't expecting. And we had called fingers, which is a spread. And we're over in Long Beach playing a basketball game, right? And Roger hits a three-pointer from the corner. We had to stop the game. The kids on our team were so excited for Roger, till the ref had to stop the game. And then he hit another one. It's like,
yeah, he could shoot.
Whew.
Yeah, he was a shooter. But I bring you up all the time in conversation, when it comes to the sports, because, and you give me your thought on it. When it comes to our kids, a lot of times we push the athletic side on them so they can get scholarships. And you'll see in certain programs, they make sure you have the grades as well. You know what I'm saying? But where I grew up, I saw kind of like the opposite. It was more about, we need a W, you're failing. So I would like to know, your thoughts on your take on it, and how you see things as a coach, and where we need to do better, in the environments of coaching, because you're still coaching.
Yes.
So something must be something there where you like, I feel like there's a need for me and what I bring to the athletics.
That question, I'm sort of dealing with that now with my son. Now, my son was all-county, all-state, first-team football player, my youngest son. And he didn't get the scholarship offers that he thought he was going to get, because his grades wasn't what they should have been. So we signed him to a prep school. And now he's at Nassau Community College.
Awesome school.
And he's gonna play there next year. But had he had the grades, which is no one's fault but his own.
Gotcha.
Because
he
I
was
know
in a position.
personally, I'm not speaking for anybody else, I know personally, I've put him in position to succeed at every turn. So hopefully, sometimes it takes some people a little longer to learn.
Yeah.
But as long as they learn.
Yeah.
And he loves football, and he has a great chance to succeed. But you have to do the academics. They call it student athlete for a reason.
Right.
And once you hook into that, now I wasn't the best student when I was in high school, which meant when I got to college, I had to seek out tutors.
Yes.
You gotta yell. It's like you're in a pond of water and everybody's passing by you until you yell out, "I need help."
Right.
They don't know to get you to tutor.
Thank you for saying that. Yes.
But I actually got hooked on it, and I met people from New Orleans, Atlanta, all over the place.
Right.
And different friends saying, "Well, why you go back to your dorm in between classes?"
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one friend explained it to me. He says, "You have 45 minutes between classes. Go to your next class, sit outside and read.
Right.
Then go to class."
Good friend right there.
You do that 2 or 3 times a day, you've got an hour and a half, 2 hours of reading that you would have had to do anyway.
Right.
You've got that done.
Mm-hmm. It's a good friend.
You know, I think people learn from other people even more so than they do from books.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, so once you're on campus and you get swallowed up in the campus life, and everybody, whether it's the different major or whatever, but if you got a friend that's cracking a book and always reading, it tends to make you want to crack a book.
Right.
And do some reading.
Surroundings, people.
Yeah.
Your environment.
You have to be a student athlete. Right. And it's to the point where if you coming out of high school, if you're not a qualifier, which means if your GPA is not high enough and your SAT scores don't jive, you are not a qualifier.
Not a problem, yeah.
And you cannot receive any athletic aid.
Right.
And I feel like that rule was, now some people are going to say, "Oh, he's crazy," but that rule affects us.
Yeah.
People that look like me more so than any other.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, there was a guy, Sam Boone. When I grew up, he was the next block over from where I stayed. Now, Mr. Boone, you know, when he was younger, he was the #1 wrestler on the island.
Okay.
He went into the armed services. From the armed services, he went into the institutes over in Japan, and they were able to allow him to learn some of the more deadly arts.
Okay.
And Mr. Boone ended up making the Olympic team in '64.
Wow.
And he's working out, and he gets a pain in his rib. So they sent him home. They said he couldn't return unless a doctor cleared him.
Okay.
So the doctor, back in Freeport, the doctor's asking him, "Well, what happened?" He's saying, "Oh, I just got a pain." Well, did it go away? Has it came back? So he went back to the Olympic Training Center with a note in his hand saying that he's cleared,
right.
And they would not allow him to wrestle in his spot.
Ooh.
Mind you, it's 1964. And they stole his spot.
Wow.
You know, so much so that Mr. Boone, he came aboard in high school and he taught us throws.
Wow.
You talk about a seriously dangerous individual. I mean, coming from headlock, lateral drop, fly away, you name it. He knew how to teach the throws. And at tournaments, when you heard somebody yell, you look around, somebody's in the air.
Ooh.
You know? I mean, he was a serious individual. He passed away 2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Me and a friend of mine went down to his service. Wow. And he was really
He deserved that.
He was the one that taught me how to throw. You know, I go over his house. He had a daughter my age. I go over his house. He come out moving furniture around, and we have a 2-hour session right in the living room.
Wow.
Never saw the daughter.
Right. I love that.
Never saw the daughter.
Wow.
But just different people.
Yeah.
And the main reason, that's why I do what I do, because of the different people that has done for me.
Yeah.
And, you know,
forward.
When you say thank you, and they tell you, if you really want to thank me, pay it forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
You do what I did for you for somebody else.
Right, right. That's my reward.
Mm-hmm. People look and say, well, why would you do that? Why would you extend your finances? Why would? Because somebody did it for me.
Somebody did it for
you. Didn't have the money? I got the money. I'll pay for you. You know?
Love that.
And
wow.
I tell you, there's quite a few guys we're starting to get momentum, and there's quite a few guys that went to Nassau Community College that
Great
are
school,
teaching. They're teaching at Wantagh, out in Suffolk County. Yep. I mean,
awesome.
And they're paying it forward.
Yeah.
They're coaching and they're paying it forward.
That's the one.
I'd like to mention that a young man that wrestled for me at Nassau recently changed his name. His name is Tyshawn Scarlett. Okay. From now on, you have to call him Doctor.
Oh, Tyshawn Scarlett. All right.
You know.
Be clear. We got the Dr. Dot for that name. Love that.
And he is.
Love that.
You know, he's been able to secure some very real jobs.
Right.
You know. I'm so proud of him.
Yeah.
So proud of him.
Yeah. Love that. Love that.
I have a guy, Mike Trotter from Oceanside. He's Mike Trotter Tile and Design is his company.
Wow.
He works wonders with ceramic tile.
Ooh, go ahead.
And you know, when you work wonders,
yeah.
You
become
his entire business is from word of mouth.
They looking for you. Yeah. Love that. Love that.
Yeah. He is really going to work. We've had a guy that wrestled at Nassau, got into the MMA, and won a world championship.
Look at that.
Yeah.
See?
He had a very nice career, and you know, I couldn't be happier for him. You know, and at the time, he lost in the semifinals of the Nationals, and he's crying like a baby. And I'm crying. And I'm telling him, you're going to get a chance to wrestle in front of millions. You're going to compete in front of millions. And sure enough, it happened. He went to Hofstra.
Speak it.
He was a 2-time All-American at Hofstra. And he beat Anderson Silva, beat him twice in championship bouts.
Come on in here with the fruits.
There's just so many guys. Rob Cuffey. You know, at Nassau, they come with us for 2 years, and then they go somewhere else for 2 more years. Right. And get their 4-year degree.
That's what I'm saying. Listen, stop playing. You don't have to give up, okay? But there's ways.
And most of them ended up going on full scholarship.
Right. Yep. Telling you. Bars.
If you are determined.
Right.
Somebody can figure something out for you.
That's the one.
It's already figured out for you. As long as you don't give up.
You just got to show up.
With wrestling, as long as you don't give up. You know, and originally, wrestling was a sign of strength of the nation, right? And I mean, you look at the training. Wrestlers excel in the military.
Right.
Because they're used to the training.
Right.
And they're used to being.
That makes so much sense.
Oh. Wrestling was the original sport. I mean, it just, every other sport piggybacks off of wrestling. Basketball, you see the way they move. Elements, I mean, it's just elements of wrestling.
Love that.
That was the only sport in the first Olympics.
Love this.
You know? But a lot of black people don't think that it's a black sport. But
I've heard that.
But if you know your if you know your history, you know that it is. You know that it is.
We learning tonight. Love it.
1/3 of United States presidents have wrestled.
Ooh.
So there must be
That's
something to it.
Yeah.
The way you carry yourself,
Right.
your demeanor, the way you can think on your feet and do things by the seat of your pants, there's got to be something to it.
I love that.
There's got to be something to it. Last year, there was 5 black, now there's 10 weight classes.
Okay.
So there was 5 black NCAA champions at one tournament.
At one tournament?
At one tournament.
Wow.
There's been about 60 black NCAA champions. So when you're talking about a unicorn, you're looking at a unicorn.
Ooh, say that. Love that. Love that. So let me ask you this. Do you think, because of how your journey has been, do you think that you've kind of always moved under the spirit of excellence? Because even when it comes to corrections, you can share, going up in the ranks. When it comes to us, as black people, we don't really have too many of us, in stripes and in white shirts and things like that. So you think, your journey and having to kind of move with that extra, I don't know, how do you say? I guess the spirit of excellence. Do you think you carry that in everything you do?
I refer back to Coach Sam Boone when he says that if you have to be better, if they expect you to be better, and it's a criteria, then be better. All you need is a chance.
Yeah, sir.
Says, don't think, and the night that I wrestled for the county championship, as I'm getting ready, guys are coming over, wishing me well. Now, Coach Boone comes in, pulls me in close, and he tells me, I don't care what the reason is. If you say the ref cheated, or something else went wrong, or they did this, or they did that, I don't care. If you come off the mat without getting your hand raised, I'm going to kick your ass. And I mean, this guy is serious.
Yeah.
And dangerous,
Right.
I said, right then, that settles it. I got to wrestle a little high school guy as opposed to Mr. Boone. Oh, man.
He's like, it's in the bag. It's in the bag. Wow. I love that.
But because of what he had went through and how they stole his spot.
Yeah.
I mean, to make an Olympics in wrestling?
Literally stolen.
Oh.
Wow.
Man.
Oh. Wow.
I tell you, it's just, but when it comes to the job, you not only have to be good, you got to go over the top. You got to show them that you know what you're doing. Because when I show up anywhere, if I'm walking down the street in a department store, wherever I am, the first thing you notice about me is my chocolate.
No, that's right. Yeah.
But when they see that you know what you're doing and you know what you're talking about, and you know how to talk to people.
Right.
You know, it's like, sometimes it's like they've seen a ghost. Like, how could you talk to him? Now, remember, I told you when I first started, I would work with the minors.
Right.
Right? Now, when I'm there, say 30 years, I've been moving up the rank, and you don't move around as much
Right. Right.
when you move up the ranks. If you're a corporal, you go to your post.
Right.
You don't see too many people. If you're a sergeant, you're withdrawn even more from the population, inmate population, and you just deal with issues.
Right.
As a lieutenant, you make one round. You have a lot of responsibility, but you're not spending time at every post.
Right. Right.
Now, when something would happen, and on the occasion I'd show up, people would know me. Oh, Mr. E, how you doing? And the officers are like, how do you know them?
Right.
You don't spend no time with them.
Right.
I said I had them as a minor.
Right.
Once there's a lot of them and one of you.
Yeah.
And they all know you.
Yeah.
They've been coming back and forth. The recidivism rate is very, very high. Yeah. And it seemed like people, they will go to jail, get out, come back, get out, come back. No big deal until they decide that they're sick and tired of being sick and tired. Right. So most of the people, that ain't their first go around or second go around. Right. So there's people that knew me for 20 years, even though we haven't seen each other.
Right.
And just the color of my skin, when I first started, I always got a kick out of this. I'd be working a post, and they would ask me to go to the desk to retrieve something. I go to the desk, retrieve whatever it is I'm supposed to get, and when I get back, I just missed an incident. Time after time, I just missed an incident.
Wow.
That lets you know that your presence, just by your presence, you're changing things.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're changing things. They don't want you there when things happen.
Right.
Because they don't know which way you're going to go.
That's a fact. So let me just do this because we know what we're talking about right now. But for those who do not, the place where we worked, as officers is predominantly white. So, yeah.
Oh, yes.
It's, you feel all of that, when you are, when there's only a few of those who look like you, you feel every bit of that. So basically, what he's saying is his presence, people wouldn't know how to deal with him because of the character and the integrity. So that's actually a good thing. Let me just be clear. That's actually a good thing. But no, I'm just listening to your story, I'm amazed and inspired because understanding that, growing up with your grandparents, them first of all teaching you about hard work, and then seeing your mother have to take on this, position of I'm going to provide regardless and teach my kids that, you go above and beyond to have more because I have to do what I have to do because I don't have your opportunities. And then not having a dad, in the home, God put men, real men, in position to pour into your life. And now you're paying that forward. So you're like a champion in life, as far as I'm concerned.
Well,
I just want to put that out there.
Coach Hayes always taught and said, and I find it to be true, if you're a champion, you're a champion. It don't take a referee to lift your hand for you to be a champion. You were a champion when you walked in the building.
Yes, sir. Yes. Love that. And I think it's so important, to pay it forward and to be able to share things just like that, with our youth. What would you say? Let me do this until we're gonna wrap up. You know, um, I keep asking the men about the state of our men right now, seeing our men take their own lives, commit suicide, killing the mothers of their children, their wives, and things like that. What is your thoughts on what's going on with our men right now? What is your thoughts?
You know, I try to deal from a position of strength, and you're more likely to be strong if you can see what's going on before you get there.
Right.
A lot of time things happen, and you look back, and there's an accumulation of things. It's not just that one thing happened. It seems to be a systematic plan to keep us down. African American youth get stopped, they get charged. Other youths get stopped, they get taken home.
Yeah. All the McDonald's.
There's a big difference. That McDonald's thing was crazy. But if you get charged, now the chances of you landing a county job are cut.
Right.
And most likely you can forget about it.
Right.
If you have a record, when there's certain people that do the same thing or worse, don't ever get a record from it.
Right.
Now this is just something that I did a couple of times or every now and then at work. Punch in names. Punch in names on the system.
Right.
Because the system has everybody that's been arrested.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure if you punch in certain names, you'll find that certain people that work with you, name will pop up in the system.
Oh.
Now somehow they got around it.
Somehow
they got around it.
Somehow.
I'm just looking to guide and hoping that the young people will get guidance. Now, I'm not one to say this happened because I was black. Let's just take a look. Were you qualified?
Okay.
When Obama was president, we were just all supposed to get Christmas gifts. No, but if he can level the playing field, I can get an education and I can perform just as well as anybody else. As long as the playing field is level. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that Obama didn't do anything. He leveled the playing field as much as he could. And some people would, even at work, I'm the lieutenant, I'm in charge. Okay, I'm also in charge of that white guy.
Right.
I'm also in charge of the Spanish officer.
Right.
All right? So you do what you should do and what's expected of you, and everybody else do the same.
Right.
Now we have a problem when you can't hold up your end of the deal.
Come on, let's be real now.
All right?
Yeah.
Over the course of the years, I'm sure I've been referred to as house nigger and all of this other stuff, but hey, the rules are the rules, and we're all gonna abide by this.
Say that one.
You know?
Say that one. Say that one. Listen, I've been very specific, with the people that I've had come on in this particular moment. I have a heart for the kids as well. And the reason why I said to you, do you see God in everything? Because I absolutely do.
Mm-hmm.
And being someone who recognizes God, first of all, in all things, and seeing how things are happening, falling into place, for our people, for our youth. What do you think, if you can give us advice on what we can do better to make a difference, what would you tell us to do?
Now, I mentioned as a youngster, Church of God in Christ, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just so happens that there's a Church of God in Christ in Freeport.
Right.
And we are members. Bishop Frank O. White, as opposed to Bishop Frank A. White.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Bishop O. White is no longer with us. It's been like 5 or 6 years now.
Wow.
And I get confused with the time because physically he hasn't been here.
Right.
But mentally,
Spirit,
he's here.
Yeah.
And in situations, I know what he would say or do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there really hasn't been anybody else to touch me the way he has. Mm-hmm. Now, maybe because we have, he was a wrestler.
Right. Wow.
Maybe because we have that in common. Mm-hmm. We have a spiritual connection that even lasts, when he's in the grave. But people and you know what they would do and what they wouldn't do. Mm-hmm. In 2013, my mom passed, right? And had the services at Zion, and we went back for the repast. Mm-hmm. Sure, but the repast, the first people I see is Bishop O. White and his wife. Right. They served my family.
That gave me chills.
Now, Bishop, he was one of 12 in the coaching organization. Mm-hmm. He could have got anybody.
He sure could have.
People would have gladly put the apron on. But him and his wife served us. And it really taught me about being of service. Now, I'm the director of Big Brothers basketball. It's a basketball tournament we have every year. And we haven't had it the last 2 years because of COVID.
Right.
But we're going to have it this year again. We're going to start it up. It's been going for 25 years. And kids have a safe environment to play basketball. And a lot of the kids, this is their last chance of playing in a real game where they have a real referee.
Right.
And, in the past, we've had great success. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to extend an invitation to kids in Uniondale, Freeport, Hempstead. Come on down. Yeah. We're going to be The first day is June 27th.
Okay.
That's registration. It's $55 entry fee, but with that $55, you get a reversible jersey. You're going to play about 20 games.
Nice.
Because you play 2 games a night.
Nice.
So that's 4 games a week.
Right.
And it's a 5-week program.
That's awesome.
We have awards at the end throughout the month of July, June, and July. We have Island Harvest coming down, provide meals and snacks.
Awesome.
We have a tremendous group of coaches and volunteers, but we need more. We need more volunteers.
All right.
We need people to come down and interact with our youth.
With our youth. Come on, y'all.
This is a mentoring program. If you'd like to have an impact on a youth, come down.
Yeah.
Engage them.
Yes.
Whether it's keeping the book, whatever it is, we need people to come down. Real people.
Right.
You know, and I'm not talking, I don't want to shy, and, tell anybody to shy away from not coming. But we need everyday people, productive citizens, to come down and engage our youth.
All right.
People,
make it plain.
People learn from other people quicker than they do from anything else.
Right.
That experience is priceless.
Yeah. And life-changing. That experience is life-changing.
Well, I hope it is, because that's what we're trying to do.
Paying it forward. Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow.
If you are interested in volunteering this summer, and we're going to be going from June 27th to July 28th, look it up online. Cedmond Corporation. It's a nonprofit, and we could use the help.
Absolutely.
We really could use the help.
Absolutely. So you think that one of the things that we really need right now is God. We need God. We really need God. I think it's so important that people understand, because what you said was so vital. Your pastor is your covering. So to see, to have your pastor in place to serve in a time that you're most vulnerable said a lot about his character, and it says a lot about how much God loves you to put you under that covering, because that is the energy that you give out to the world. So we need God.
Yes.
We need God, folks. We need God. We need God. And, once we hit there, everything else will literally fall into place. Champion Christopher Edmond. Champion. I love him. I love him more now. It's different now. Now it's different, y'all. It's a different situation now. It's different. But yes, please, sir, please, ma'am, if you want to volunteer to help out this June, please contact Chris. Tell them where they can contact you.
cedmond at optonline.net. That's cedmond optonline.net.
Spell Edmond.
EDMOND. No U.
Some people spell it up.
Yeah, a lot of people use the U.
Yeah, they do use the U. Amen. Amen. Listen, sir. Listen, ma'am. One thing I want you to leave tonight understanding is that we have to pay it forward. We have to pay it forward, and we have to give people their flowers while they can still smell them. There's somebody who touched your life as a youth. Somebody who gravitated to you when you were a kid. You may not even done everything correctly, but just because they poured into you, tell that person thank you. Or let's get it together just to bless that person, remind them that what they said was valuable. What they said penetrated something on the inside. Nobody's perfect. None of us are perfect, but we gotta do better. We gotta pay it forward. So, Mr. Edmond,
thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. Listen, y'all. Men, Where Art Thou series on Hot Mic with Lady She podcast has been blessing my whole entire heart. I promise you. Listen, thank you to everyone who has supported us thus far. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Hot Mic with Lady She podcast. We are not finished. April is still here. A few more days. But we will have more amazing people like Mr. Chris Edmond coming on to bless our people. This is the men sharing their hearts, sharing their stories. But this is about all of us. So let me just make that clear. This is about each and every one of us growing, glowing, and being better. This platform is to educate, encourage, and empower. So if you are a woman and you felt something that Chris said, then to God be all the glory. The job has been done. But share this live with someone. Share my link, which should be in the bio and everywhere else I'm posting it, all over social media. But please, sir, please, ma'am, if you would like to volunteer, anything connected to our youth. We also have Youth for Tomorrow with the coordinator, Ms. Victoria Moore. They have now just started track last week, I believe. So if you are in Nassau County, Hempstead, it's Hempstead CYO, but if you are in Nassau County, please reach out to her on Facebook, Youth for Tomorrow. There's another part of that name. Youth for Tomorrow. YFT on Facebook. Yeah, on Facebook. And
it is YFT. Youth for Tomorrow's not CYO anymore.
Okay, excuse me, it is YFT, is not CYO. We're doing big things, okay? Okay. That was in the beginning, that was in the past. But yes, Youth for Tomorrow as well. You know, get involved, guys. Get involved with our kids. You know, listen, he's a retired lieutenant in corrections. I'm still over in corrections. We do not want to see the youth in there. I promise you we don't. So we make the difference of them soaring in life or ending up behind bars. We got to do better. We owe it to them. We owe it to ourselves to pay it forward. So if you don't leave with nothing tonight, pay it forward. Amen. So thank you once again, Chris Edmond. Everyone who joined us on tonight, have a blessed and amazing night. Bye, everybody. To God.